Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today's video is another Twitter thread I decided to draft so I could make it a video. I started to think how cool it would be for Tabata to mix dark psychology and science together for the dark triad and Lucius. I've already said that I do believe that Lucius will introduce science and alchemy to the series, but instead of having something like mind magic, it might make more sense to have something a bit less obscure. Today, we go on yet another deep dive into the occult side of life, and we will learn why you are not you, but the result of the collective unconscious, a conglomerate of your ancestors. All this will be explained and more through diving into the potential magic of Lucius, magic I would label as DNA magic. This is Jack Oates the Goat. You either know or you don't.
Nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Pull up, say what's the deal, bruh? See how I lose my cool any second if they don't hear us. Many people will fear us. Say when you look in the mirror, don't you compare us to anything, they get embarrassed. Ha, ha, woo. So many people be talking like they want the problems or something. I noticed that all of you polish and all of you people get punished. It's hard to keep food on your stomach, to all of the hustle keep running. That's hard to stay humble with nothing. We're off of the jungle, we're bugging. So let me come down all of a sudden. I told you that we keep it buzzing. Ha, woo. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
When we talk about the psychological dark triad or even the Jungian or Freudian archetypes, you can't not mention the concept of the collective unconscious. It's a very, very interesting topic, and it would be perfect if we were introduced in a less mystical or magical way, and instead in a more cerebral, tangible, and sciencey way. The emergence of science in this series would be of massive importance for two reasons. The second reason is something we will discuss at the end of this video. It's exciting, so be sure to stick around. The first reason is very simple, but also crucial to the series in particular. Science and matters of government belong to demons, while spiritual and emotional concepts belong to the heavenly bodies. When you read about demons in the underworld, you'll start seeing that exact trend. Baal, a demon who makes those who invoke him purposeful and cunning and teaches them the way to be invisible. Belphegor, a demon who helps people make discoveries. He seduces people by means of laziness and suggests to them ingenious inventions that will make them rich, stagnating that Astaroth, the infernal commander of 40 despotic legions who teaches mathematical sciences and handicrafts, can make men invisible and lead men to hidden treasures, and answers every question formulated to him, also said to give to mortal beings the power. Commander of the 2nd Legion of Spirits, has the power to discover the most hidden secrets in all the courts and governments of the world. Nibiros, the greatest necromancer of all infernal spirits, has the power to harm whoever he pleases. He can reveal the hand of glory, and he educates on all the qualities of metals, minerals, plants, and all pure. The third chief, under Lucifugro Focal, termed as the Great President of the Underworld and commander of 36 despotic legions, and gives the origins of mechanical arts and can change men into different forms. Acknowledging the fact that demons are said to have directly brought us things like science, liberal arts, governments, and many of our physical traditions brings us to some very cool topics. Topics Tabata has actually brought to us first in his highly underrated series, Hungry Joker. Actually, I will be proposing that Black Clover is an inverse prequel to Hungry Joker, as in history, Magic precedes science, and as the higher-ranking members in society got hold of these mystical teachings, magic seemed to have disappeared while science prevailed and remained open to the public to a certain extent. This goes back to some of the first historical topics we touched on earlier in this channel's development. Cornelius Agrippa was actually wanted dead by the population at large for the magical and occult teachings he brought to his country. He brought science, alchemy, mathematics, and magic to the people in his time, and they considered him a heretic of the highest sort. Though the public saw him as a detriment to humanity, the royals and nobles of that time did not. Cornelius Agrippa was actually granted a noble rank by King Augustus, a living divine protection by a king in exchange for his knowledge, which the rich kept to themselves to keep the public ignorant, and could even still be happening to this day. As for Lucius, to have DNA magic would be interesting and quite fitting, since it would fit the theme of body, bone, and blood of the Dark Triad, and still would have some elements of the popularized thought of him having mind magic. See, when we think about DNA, we usually think about an element of us that is predetermined, our own built-in microbial, unshakable destiny, fate in its most physical form. It determines our hair color, eye color, skin tone, build, the way we think, the way we interact with others, literally everything. But have you ever thought about your irrational fears? I don't mean those fears you develop after watching It, or the fear of heights you developed after you fell from a 5-story building. No. There are fears that everyone has that have no relevant origin in your lifetime. A primal urge to avoid something because your body tells you to stay away from it. Nothing more, nothing less. The most common example of this is nyctophobia, the fear of the dark. A vast majority of the human population share this fear, and it's not because something happened to them personally while it was dark. It's because their ancestors had unfavorable experiences in the dark. Humans used to be hunters, but never nocturnal. When the sun set, we became prey, as our bodies were not evolved to hunt or fight in the dark. Ever wonder why you have this preordained fear of some bugs, bats, and other nocturnal creatures? This could be why. Experiences like these pile on. These can be both good and bad, and this phenomena is called genetic memory. Your likes, dislikes, fears, and sources of pleasure are not solely your own. You are a conglomerate of your ancestors' recorded experiences. This is genetic memory in biology. However, it was also mentioned as another term we have used before when talking about Lucius, even back when he was just the mysterious fourth Zogratis. Genetic memory is also termed as what is called the collective unconscious. When we talk about the psychological dark triad, especially the infamous dark tetrad, or even the Jungian and Freudian archetypes, one can't not mention the collective unconscious. If we give Lucius DNA magic, this gives him the opportunity to manipulate his own evolution, and this could be through means of genetic memory. In other videos, I give my thoughts on the triad being 3 aspects of Lucius, while Lucius is the 4th, known as the shadow self. This is in reference to the Jungian archetypes, which is not too far from the Freudian archetypes. If you'd like to know more about those, I have made several threads on Twitter and a few videos of the Jungian archetypes, but the most detailed version is in the Lucius's Master Plan playlist, so definitely check those out. If Lucius has DNA magic, this would explain how he was able to split off into 3 other beings to form what we came to know as the Dark Triad. This also explains why they would be siblings as well. Lucius is undeniably older than all of them in Zenon's flashback, and since they are actual genetic clones of himself in this case, we can treat them as twin-like beings since they would share the exact same DNA. Having created them from his own DNA would also open up the opportunity to write his DNA in a way his conscious could live on through them. No matter what, they would all be drawn to accomplish the task of instigating the advent of Clipbot for the purpose of bringing Lucius, now the shadow self and their collective unconscious, to life in a perfect body. This is why even when Xenon strayed from the predestined path, he fell right back in, because being a devil host was both in his genetic nature and part of his nurture. There is more importance to having DNA magic, though. Who's to say he had messed with the DNA of others? We have quite anomalous characters that are hardwired much differently than the rest. Characters like Asta, Yuno, and Lucida. Think of how far ahead Lucius would have had to plan to get to this point. If Lucius knows the true origin of Liebe and or anti-magic, then he would probably understand that a person without magic is the only person that can truly wield the powers of anti-magic with no issues at all. For Yuno, I think it would be interesting if Lucius being within Astaroth's body is only temporary and he seeks to use Yuno as his true vessel, because Yuno is actually, well, I can't reveal what Yuno actually is by name yet, but I can say that he is the perfect body. The point here is that the ability to manipulate DNA literally grants one the ability to shape the soul that inhabits the vessel. If a body is made with specific characteristics, then a compatible soul will be drawn to it, just like we see in the Elf arc. This is actually the same concept in the black magic sex rituals of Atlantis. But why is the shape of a soul important? Let's look at Patri and Licht for a second, and I'm sure you'll get why I say this. Patri, like Licht, was a wielder of a 4-leaf grimoire, and we saw them both have their souls reshaped entirely. Licht turned himself into an ancient demon, while Patri fell into despair and became a dark elf. While both attained different forms, their outcome was the same. They lost their grimoires due to their soul no longer being compatible with their grimoire, since their genetic makeup literally changed. Back to Lucius. If he has the ability to manipulate both his own and others' DNA, he can shape the vessel, which will draw a compatible soul down into it, which gives him the power to take away and bestow grimoires upon a mage by proxy. This again implies that Asta was purposefully genetically manipulated in order to wield Licht's 5-leaf grimoire, while Yuno may not have been actually manipulated by Lucius himself, but due to what I believe is a Hyperborean mating ritual, Yuno became a perfect body that Lucius seeks to use for himself. This man would quite literally have the power of time, gravity, and possibly space if he is directly aligned with Beelzebub, which all give him the ability for time travel, travel between dimensions, interstellar travel, and much more, but essentially, the power of reality. With the powers of the collect triad he may have due to their deaths in the Advent, may have given him the respective attributes of the triad with his own DNA magic, giving him the ability to create a body from the ground up, and by working with devils, could give them bodies compatible to host them perfectly without having to make a contract that gives the human rights within the relationship. An army of demons in the flesh, with the ability to attain grimoires and have 100% of their power not hindered by anything or anyone. This next point will give us the perfect segue into the future of the Black Clover fandom and what's next for Tabata. If devils are given bodies that have a soul within them and are a perfect match, they will look just like Yuno does now with 2 souls and 2 grimoires, but one soul would be more prevalent, and that soul in this case would be the aforementioned devil it was made for. This means that they would be able to evolve, which is the most important thing a devil cannot do, as Megicula had observed while fighting Noel. This distinction between humans and devils, and most likely even elves, is that they can evolve and create new spells while these other species cannot. This theme is prevalent in Tabata's other series, Hungry Joker. There are beings in that series called Mavro that have absolute power, but they are unable to evolve that power and apply it in creative ways as the White Jokers do. This ultimately sets up our protagonist group for success as they eventually surpass the Mavro, but still have major antagonists on the horizon. But here's the thing. I have this gut feeling that Black Clover is the world before Hungry Joker and Lucius. Well, I'll leave that next part to Broku, as he was the one who pointed it out to me, which caused me to speed read Hungry Joker. But the element of evolution is a massively important and constantly pointed out theme in the series, and one of the antagonists points out that the side that wins this Mavro versus human war will be the new gods of the universe. This brings in the thought of a concept we have talked about in a lot of detail. The concept of aeons. Aeons are gods that have existed throughout the beginning of time that have ruled this universe. Each aeon is different and each aeon forms a different rule. Thinking about it as a body of water, there was one and there was a specific rule set by that aeon. Now imagine a rock dropping into that body of water. Now there are more and more waves. The original aeon stays in the middle, now the smallest part of the body, but does not cease to exist. These new aeons, the ripples in that body of water, create their own rules, and as they do so, they do not overwrite any preceding laws, but those laws become less and less prevalent. In the world of Hungry Joker, we have what are called Eurekas, which are a power source not even science can explain, and there are humans that were predestined to be able to wield them without dying. To me, it seems as though, just like in real life, the rule of magic faded into the background as science prevailed. Not to say magic does not exist, but science is now in the forefront. The characters in Hungry Joker use these magical objects and combine them with their knowledge of science, possibly introduced by Lucius in Black Clover, to produce specific effects to help them gain an edge. Where things were much more mystically driven in the past, the quest for knowledge of the inner working of things rose. Grimoires would no longer be needed as knowledge is the new grimoire. These Eurekas are now the remaining remnants of an old world where magic ruled everything. Now think about this. If Asta or Liebe, or both if they happen to be the same being, become the next Aeon and create a new rule, the rule could cause humans from that point on to no longer have magic at all, and all the magic that world was run on, the magic that ruled over fire, ice, time, space, gravity, and so on, have now become Eurekas in the current scientific age of Hungry Joker. The last and probably most exciting point I feel like I need to bring up is the fact that Hungry Joker ended in a frighteningly similar fashion as Black Clover before the 3-month hiatus. In the end of Black Clover 331, we have Lucius's first smile. In the end of Hungry Joker, we have Heidi's very first smile. This tells me that Tabata may end up revamping Hungry Joker and picking up where he left off, as Hungry Joker was his first love. Well, I feel like I gave you all quite a bit to think about. If you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a like and subscribe if you really like it. I don't know about you guys, but I am really enjoying the shift in this channel where we get to not only talk about manga and make theories, but also go over some really cool real-life facts, concepts, philosophy, and literature. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. This has been Jack Oates to Go. You either know or you don't.